On behalf of TASO and the Sutton Trust, I'd like to welcome you all to this virtual conference, Fair Admissions Beyond Post-Qualification Admissions, or PQA. I'm Professor Eunice Simmons, Chair of TASO, and thanks to all of you who've taken time out of your schedules to speak and participate in the discussion today. Also, those who've helped organise the event and all of you joining to listen and engage. So admissions remains one of the biggest challenges for those of us convinced of the transformative potential of HE on both society and individuals. And with more and more young people keen to undertake further studies and tap into their potential through university degrees, the sector's wrestling with balancing the need to be inclusive and fair with the need to remain competitive and to maintain the highest possible standards of education and student experience. So university should be a place where people from all walks of life can come together to grow, to expand their knowledge and to excel in what they do, to come out at the end of the experience with a new sense of what's possible and to feel their chances of being increased of realising their own potential and bettering their futures. So the challenge is for the opportunity of this to be available, not just to those from advantaged backgrounds, but to everyone regardless of ethnicity, gender, sexuality, socioeconomic background, disability or other key characteristic. And I guess since the 90s, when the number of universities expanded and applying for university became a more ordinary and less elite choice, there's been an increase in the number of people from disadvantaged and underrepresented groups who are accepted into universities. Indeed, over the past decade, the HE progression rate at age 19 for those living in the most disadvantaged areas has risen from 18% to 28%. But during the same period, the progression of young people in the most advantaged areas has also increased from 51 to 58%. So that means the gap remains at about 30%. And it's interesting in today's HESA data that the proportion of students from lower socioeconomic groups continues to grow. But is that an artifact of our population structure or a real trend? So it'll be very interesting to compare with this year's UCAT data, as last year I think it appeared the gap between advantage and disadvantage was not shrinking. What's more, with the number of 18-year-olds set to grow year on year in the next decade till 2030, there'll be more, perhaps 20% more 18-year-olds in the population compared to 2020. The HE sector faces a new challenge to ensure the increased competition doesn't bring to the fore and exacerbate existing inequalities. So we recognise that admissions is just one aspect of the wider battle to tackle these inequalities in HE, and we do acknowledge that government, Office for Students and many others have made calls for a renewed focus on outcomes over access, getting on rather than just getting in, if you like. And at TASO, actually, we're committed to establishing what works to reduce and remove inequalities at every stage of the student life cycle. Indeed, you might be aware that our recent launch of research themes focused on employment and employability, mental health and disability, and that'll take our research much further beyond just getting students into university. But it is quite clear that admissions is a really key part of this life cycle. It's such an important one, so important that we come together to get this right, or we'll be letting down not just the 18-year-olds of today, but those 18-year-olds of 2030 and everyone else whose life could be uniquely benefited by a degree level education and beyond. In fact, just last week, Elliott, Britain's first Professor of Social Mobility, has been getting coverage for his comments regarding how personal statements in university applications create a systemic disadvantage to poorer students, as it's the advantage applicants getting all the help to write them. I'm sure that will come up in discussion later. But his comments relate to just one aspect of the admissions process, which has the potential to create or indeed perpetuate inequalities. They could apply to other areas of the admissions process, and I hope that we'll pick those up in the discussions today. So we do have some great minds and passionate voices who've already been leading the way and finding solutions that we need. Some of them are sharing this event today to discuss the issue, and they've been researching and working on new approaches to fair admissions from different vantage points. We know that beyond their work, there also have been some great efforts across the sector to find solutions, and hopefully some of you will bring those to the fore in the discussion sessions. We also recognise that it's not just a UK issue. Across the world, HE managers, policymakers, WP practitioners and academics are wrestling with similar issues. Some of them are trailblazing, innovative and sometimes radical solutions to help shape a fairer, more inclusive future for HE in their respective countries. And we are delighted to hear from some of them today about work they've been doing, what we might learn from them when approaching the same challenge in the UK context. So without further ado, let's get the conference started. We hope this will be an insightful, illuminating and thought-provoking event. What's more, we hope it will act as a catalyst to get this discussion firmly on the agenda to encourage more cross-sector working, collaboratively finding some of the solutions needed. If you're interested in working with TASO on testing the efficacy of pre-entry events which contribute to this discussion, maybe summer schools, for example, do please get in touch. But in the meantime, many thanks from all of us at TASO and the Sutton Trust, and enjoy the day. Thank you. I'll hand over to Minto now.